Welcome to BODS Mayhem Hour, your source for all hard rock, heavy metal, new metal, alternative, punk, horror punk, hardcore, rock, and all local bands, with your host, John the Bod, a.k.a. the Bodfather.
Hey, this is Eerie. You're listening to BODS Mayhem Hour.
The views and opinions of the guests do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of BODS Mayhem Radio Network, its staff, affiliates, or sponsors. Parental discretion is advised. Welcome to BODS Mayhem Radio Network.
Hey everybody, welcome to BODS Mayhem Hour. Tonight I have a special guest that's on the line right now, and I want to welcome you guys to the show tonight. Eerie Vaughn is my guest right now. Honored to have him on the show. This man is a trick of all trades, actually. But without further ado, I want to bring my guest on. Eerie Vaughn, how you doing?
I'm fine. How are you? And as far as I know, it's a jerk of all trades. You know, that's what my dad would call me. But yes, I am that. You know, I do a little bit of everything. So
if anybody doesn't know the story behind Eerie, he's a musician. He's an artist, he's an author, he's a photographer. Some of the paintings that I've seen that he has done is mind-blowing, and they're really great. I've seen some on eBay that you put up there. Is that correct, Eerie?
yeah, every once in a while when I need to, to move some stuff out because I don't have enough room to hang them all, and I've done maybe 300 paintings in the last 12 or 13 years, so most of them sell as soon as I finish them. Mm-hmm. But we've been doing some art shows where I take the photos, from the book, blow them up, and show them like in a museum type setting with the paintings, and then I do a little acoustic show after that. So I've been trying to hang on to a couple of them so we can, bring some new stuff out for people to see, and they really like all that stuff, So, we're trying to say, here, this is not just the bass player, does a lot of other stuff too,
Oh, yeah,
so
exactly.
It's been going real good.
The other stuff that Eerie has done, he's been in bands such as Rosemary's Babies, the other two bands, Samhain and Danzig, and he's also doing his solo work right now. I actually bought his A Bit Country CD a couple weeks ago, and very impressed with it. Pretty good stuff. Actually, really good stuff.
Oh, yeah. Cool. Yeah, well, people were like, well, why are you doing a country record? I was like, well, it's not really a country record. That's why it's called kind of country, because it just sounded country to me. But most people who listen to country music would probably say it's not. It's more bluesy, maybe. But yeah. I did a whole record in between. I was doing mostly spooky, gothy kind of stuff, and then I had a record that was going to be called The Bastard Blues, and I worked on it for a year. And I went to digital, and my hard drive crashed, so I lost the whole record.
Oh, no.
So then I did the record called Spider Cider, which was more of a punk rock record because I had all these punk songs that I just wasn't using. And I was just like, well, why don't I record that shit, And then I put out the kind of country record, so it was kind of a shock to a lot of people. But if that one record that I lost had come out, it would have been a bridge from the other stuff, and you would see that there's a lot of it has a lot of similarities. Even the spooky stuff has a lot of like slide and like weird blues shit in it. So it's really not that big a departure, for me. But as soon as you say something it's country or whatever, a lot of people just say, well, we don't like it. But a lot of people listen to the Misfits and Danzig like country too. So they're cool with it, and I don't really care, you either like it or you don't, so I just do it anyway. But
exactly.
I'm working on a new record, and it's going to be a little bit darker, but still be kind of like the last one, but not completely,
But it's just like you said, though, either you like it or you don't, and two, if you're a fan of, if you like music, to me, and this made perfectly good sense when I had Josh Crum from Downtrend on here, if you like music, you are a fan of music. Regardless of what it is. And
right.
I like doo-wop. I do like horror music, horror punk, metal, grunge, stuff like that, but I like the doo-wop stuff.
Yeah, me too.
That stuff, I think, is, if it hadn't been for that, to me, there's no music at all, period. That's just my opinion.
Well, yeah, I grew up on that. The doo-wop stuff, all the oldies, real early rock and roll, and it's all connected. It's all basically blues, played in different tempos, and I really like good singers. So, like a lot of the doo-wop and early, rock and roll stuff had some really good singers, and that's where I think, me and Glenn made that connection too, because that's what he grew up on. And we used to say he was a crooner, It was like he used to really croon, and so, I mean, we love Elvis, and, so there's a lot of that going on in there. And when I write songs, I don't care what they sound like or who's doing what. I'm just going to do whatever I want anyway. Mm-hmm. And if it sounds like old style or this or whatever, I don't care. It's new to me, because I've never done it, so it's all connected, blues and country and rock. It's all the same thing. It's just how you present it, A good song is still a good song no matter what,
Exactly right. Even bluegrass. I mean, I'm a fan of bluegrass too, so.
Yeah, I like a lot of that too. They're such great players, that you're just like, oh, man, I could never do that. But, a lot of it's great. When you're traveling around the country, sometimes you get into a spot where all you hear is bluegrass or gospel or something, so you get to listening to it and you can relate it to whatever you're doing or whatever. And, yeah, like you said, you like music. You kind of can find something good in anything you hear,
And, too, I noticed in a lot of Danzig stuff that Glenn's vocals is a lot like Elvis, and I was really impressed with that, and that's what really got me into Danzig a lot, because to me it was like listening to Elvis again, because his vocals was really good to that.
Yeah, well, I always thought that, Glenn's influences are, Elvis and maybe a little bit of Jim Morrison when it comes to some of the screaming stuff, and then Bill Medley from the Righteous Brothers, the bass singer from the Righteous Brothers, which was one of his big influences, and I could recognize that, but a lot of people were surprised to say, oh, well, we didn't even know. But if you listen, you can hear it, and that was one of his big influences. And people like, when I do some of the old songs, when I go out, I do songs that will relate to what I'm doing. But they said, oh, he's trying to sound like Glenn. I'm like, no, I'm just doing the Elvis thing, because that's his influence too. So of course it's going to sound a little bit the same, but I never try to sound like Glenn. It's just, I've been listening to Elvis and singing since I was about 8 years old, so it's going to come out sort of similar, but it's all good. I don't give shit.
I'd seen you do the Danzig cover of Tired of Being Alive, if I'm not mistaken, on YouTube, and it was a really good cover. You actually did really good with it.
No, I don't think I did that one. I did Killer Wolf, and I did Going Down to Die.
That's what it was, Going Down to Die.
And I did Sam Hain's song, To Walk the Night. So I really like that song, Tired of Being Alive. I'd like to do it at some point, I mean, I love all those songs. They're great records,
You're also a photographer, correct?
Yeah, I've been doing photography about the same time. Sort of everything happened to me when I was 8 years old. I was already drawing and painting since I was about 5, and then I discovered Elvis at 8, and I had all the Motown and all the doo-wop and the 50s stuff, and it all just kind of came to a head at the same time. So I started taking pictures when my dad got a camera from Japan, and he started to show me what he knew. So I started taking pictures, and then when I got to like junior high, I was taking pictures of, sports and girls and stuff like that, and got into high school, and it was an easy way to get out of class. So I would they'd say, oh, you got to go shoot the band, or you got to shoot the cheerleaders or whatever. And then I started shooting the basketball and the baseball and the football and all that shit. So I was doing it all along, and then, one day, after Doyle got into the Misfits, he just said, why don't you come shoot the Misfits? We need pictures. So I started doing that, and that's a lot of stuff that I'm putting in the books and showing, at these exhibits and stuff. And I've been doing it all along pretty much, and I still, I moved into digital lately, but I was still shooting on film with my old camera. But I've been doing it all along, so, yeah, I've been taking pictures for a long time, too.
You have a book that's out right now of your photography from 1981 to 2006. Am I correct on that?
Yeah. It came out a couple of years ago. It's called Misery Obscura. And the misery part is from Samhain, I Am Misery, and, a couple other songs that we had with the words in. And Obscura is based on the camera Obscura, which is the original name of, a camera. Mm-hmm. So it was kind of interesting. We put the two words together. I was like, oh, that's kind of a cool title. And, so yeah, it's basically sort of my story from when I started doing this stuff and all the bands and all the people that sort of came in and out of my life, So it's got some great photos in it, a lot of stuff people have never seen, and just some really good stories and funny stuff of, about the whole trip, So, you can get it anywhere. Amazon.com has it for the best price. If anybody's interested, I think you can get it for like $10 off the cover price. Mm-hmm. But it's doing real well, and I want to hopefully do another one. Because I've got a whole lot more pictures that I didn't have a chance to put in because we only had a certain amount of pages. So yeah, I've got all that stuff, and I'm working on that now.
I'm actually going to get that book coming up this week. I looked at it last night on Amazon, like you said, and I definitely want to get that book because I'm a huge Misfits fan and things like that, and Samhain and Danzig. So that just correlates with me.
Well, yeah, you'll really like it, and I think people tell me that the way I told the stories, it sounds like, that I'm just sitting there telling you the stories, which is what you want. And people said, oh, I read it like 5 times, and I wish it was longer, I didn't want it to end, and all this. So I think you'll really enjoy it.
Yeah, I mean, you had the privilege of actually being there, part of these bands, and doing awesome stuff like that. So that's awesome for you to put out a book like that, Eerie.
Well, there was really nobody had done it. And everybody knew I was going to do it all along because I'd be taking pictures on the road all the time, and they're like, "What are you doing this for? What are you doing?" I'm like, "Well, it's for the book," So I knew eventually I'd put out a book, but now I think I might have a chance to put out another one, which would be really good, and just showcase the photos, in their really pristine form, the way they were originally shot. Because the design of the last book has, some of the photos were altered and stuff, and I want to try to put them out just so people can, so the photos can speak for themselves, plus we got to keep the legacy going too, we got to have these young kids that keep coming up and getting turned on to the band. They have to know where everything started and where it came from, and so it's important. The older you get, it becomes historical, and it's a really significant document of the period, so I think it's important to keep turning people onto that stuff,
How was it playing in Rosemary's Babies, then to Samhain, and then to Danzig?
I was always, I was playing drums from a young age, not very well, but when I got into the punk stuff and then the hardcore scene, the hardcore was like a lot faster, and I was into the Minor Threat and the Bad Brains and the FUs and Gangrene from Boston and a lot of the bands, and everybody was playing really, really fast, So we started playing as fast as we could play, and it was just, 3 guys before we got a singer, and we rehearsed like every day for months and months and months and got like a whole bunch of songs, and, then we wanted to put out a record, so we had to get a singer, and then we did that, and then we did some shows, and, did that for quite a while, and then, people started to lose interest in the band or whatever, the bass player decided he didn't want to do it, so that kind of like fell apart. At the same time, the Misfits were getting ready to break up, because I was talking to Glenn, we'd become friends by that time, and he was saying, I really want to do this, and this is what a band should be, and, all this stuff, and I was like, yeah, I agree with all of that, He's like, well, I'm thinking about doing a new band. You want to, play drums? And I said, sure, why not, because I had auditioned for the Misfits to play drums a couple of times, so, that was fine, and we got along, and then the songs he wanted to do different stuff than the Misfits, and it was a lot harder than the drum stuff that they were doing. And I was just like, dude, I can't cut this shit, I mean, I don't think I can handle it, It's like, well, I want you in the band, so why don't you play bass? And I was like, all right. So I just went and bought a bass and, you know, learned how to play. And, like, in a month we had a show, and I was terrified because I had never played bass in front of 1,000 people and, you know, all this shit, you know. And most I'd ever played has been in front of a couple hundred, you know. And then just, you know, went on tour, put out records, did that whole thing, and then, you know, wound up members coming and going, and then we got Chuck and John and turned the band into Danzig, you know. So it was all just a progression, you know. You just keep putting out records and going on tour, and then before you know it, you know, you're starting to play bigger places and recording with, like, real budgets and real producers and really good, you know, players and stuff. So it just turned into what it turned into, you know, and that ran its course too, you know. That's just what happened.
I know he's getting ready to do the Legacy tour, which I think is really cool because he's got Danzig, and I think he's doing Samhain, and plus with Doyle from Gorgeous Frankenstein. I think it's really cool what he's doing right now. Getting ready.
Well, he's been doing shows with Doyle for years now. You know, like he'll just have Doyle come out every once in a while for a big gig, and they'll do like a little Misfit set. They'll do like 5 songs or 8 songs or whatever they do. And he's got 2 of the guys that were drummers in Samhain, and they switch off on bass. But me and the guitar player have never done it, so it's sort of like they do the songs and they pour blood on their heads or whatever, but it's really not Samhain, you know. They're just playing the Samhain songs, and then they go, you know, then they go and play Misfit songs. So it's covering all the bands, you know. But you know, it's not like he's got Jerry Only and, you know, one of the old drummers or whatever, and Doyle. So it's just Doyle, and, you know, but it's good because you get to see Doyle and Glenn do Misfit songs. So people should go out and see that, and then you get to see Glenn play Mother and Twist of Cain and all them, you know, old Danzig songs.
With your solo stuff, Eerie, are you primarily just doing like the little clubs, or are you eventually wanting to break out and do other huge venues, or what are you wanting to do?
No, I'm trying to tie it all together, like I said. So I mainly go out to show the photos and the paintings, and then I just play because people want me to. But it has to be in a nice, intimate setting to where I can spend a couple of hours hanging out with people and talking about stuff, and then I just do some songs at the end. I'd like to get a band together at some point and, you know, go out and do, you know, different stuff. But right now it's like makes the most sense for me to just show up and, you know, do my thing and then just play some songs at the end, you know. So, you know, that's what I did on all my records. I played all the instruments, did it all myself because there wasn't anybody else around. But on this new record, I think I'm going to have some people that are in my wife's band and other people around Nashville that are going to play on it, so it'll sound different. But yeah, I of course would like to play bigger places and all that if it was just going to be a straight performance, you know. So I don't know. I'm open to anything, you know. But you know, you got to do what you got to do with what you got at the time, you know. So that's why I do smaller shows and stuff like that, and some of those, you know, horror conventions and all those things, and you know. So
that's
just whatever. You just got to keep moving, you know.
That's what I was going to say next. You know, Nashville has a lot of horror conventions, and they just had a tattoo horror convention, if I'm not mistaken, not long ago.
Yeah, I think it was, what is it now? It's May. I think it was in April. They asked me to do it, but I wasn't able to do it. I'll probably do the next one since it's so close to where I am. And I got one out in Indianapolis that's coming up in July, and then I got a big festival date with Farmageddon Records is doing on a big, like, 3-day festival, and Shooter Jennings is going to be there, and a bunch of people. So they were like, well, why don't you come and play? So they're going to provide me with a band, so I still don't know what the hell I'm going to do, but I'll probably play some of the old songs. I'll play some of my songs. We might do some covers. Who knows? But I just want to do it just to get out of the house, you know. Well, and it'll be fun.
There's actually one kind of close to you coming up in September. I'm sure you've heard it before. The Scarefest in Lexington, Kentucky.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, every day someone's asking me to do one of these conventions and stuff, and they're fine and everything, and I like meeting the fans like always and hanging out and stuff. But a lot of the times, I don't have a way to get there, or it'll cost me money to do these things, and I'm like, well, I have to make some money because I got to pay the rent too, like everybody else. So I can't do every one that they want me to do, So
right.
I can't keep track of them because every day someone's asking me to do something, So I try to do as much as I can. But I get a kick out of meeting some of these people that are, famous movie people or TV people. You run into all kinds of, wrestlers are always there. All these people from television, and you bump into them and you kind of go, oh, I know you. How do I know you? I was like, oh, that's because you were in the Ramones movie, or you were in Stripes, or you were in, you're the Soup Nazi from Seinfeld. Oh, how you doing? So it's always fun to do that stuff.
What's your most memorable show that you played that sticks out in your mind a lot? That was actually your most memorable one.
Well, I mean, there's so many because we played with so many great people. But one of the ones I always go back to is the first Halloween show that Danzig did in like '92 at Irvine Meadows in California. It's like a shed show outside. It's like 13,000 people. They were lighting bonfires on the hill. The barricade got broke after 2 songs, and it was just amazing. And it was on Halloween, and it's the biggest show we'd ever done as a headliner. Because we played festivals and stuff with like 200,000 people, but there's usually like 20, 30 bands on the bill. And we've done the Metallica tours and toured with Slayer and Soundgarden and all these people. But that was, to me, the really high point of our career as a band, because we sold, 10,000, 13,000 tickets just with us, So I was real happy with that. But there's a million shows. There's so many, but that one's one of my favorites. Then we went back a year or 2 later and did it again, And anytime I get to play on Halloween, it's always real special, And I just don't feel right if I'm not handing out candy to the kids. If I'm not playing a show on Halloween, I just don't feel right,
Yeah, that's true. Once it's in your blood and you perform like that a lot, I could see where you're coming from. It's just like, this is not right. Just don't have the same vibe.
Yeah, you just feel kind of lost. But I do like handing out candy to the kids, And when I was living in Florida, we used to decorate the whole house and put up lights and all kinds of stuff. And used to hand out like masks and plastic fangs and skull keychains and all kinds of stuff to the kids, And that was always a lot of fun. And I'd always have some spooky music playing and so that was really good. But I wouldn't rather do anything than but be playing a show, especially on Halloween, We used to do acoustic shows. We did one on Halloween back in like 1990 when we were living in L.A. We just, said we want to be the blues band in the back room, all this other stuff's going on. We just went and played Danzig songs acoustic and some old Muddy Waters and stuff like that, and it was the best time,
With your solo stuff, like I said, the kind of country, I really like this CD, and the actual song that I actually really like off this CD, Lay the Blame, I thought that was an excellent song.
Yeah, I play that one a lot because it's easy for me to play. But yeah, I'm really happy with the material on the record. Maybe the execution or the recording isn't as good as I'd like. Plus, there's a lot of reverb on it that I didn't intend to put on because I was using a system that I wasn't that familiar with. And every time I bounced a track, it would throw some reverb on it. And I didn't understand that. So when I got to the end to master it, when you listen to a record day in, day out, and you're mixing it over and over, you kind of get so close to it that you don't hear everything. And it wound up being like all this reverb. People are like, oh, it sounds like a rockabilly record. And I'm like, well, I didn't really mean for it to sound like that, but, the songs are good. Mm-hmm. And every time you do, the more you record, the more you play, the more you write, the better you get at it. So I'm happy with the songs. And some of the songs go back to even, when I first left Danzig, so there was like songs that were 10, 15 years old that I just never recorded, you know, so I've been writing all that time. And, yeah, I think it's a pretty good record, you know. Next one will be better. That's all you want to do, try to get better every time, you know.
Yeah, I would suggest anybody who likes this style of music, you know, that we play on here on BODS Mayhem Hour, I would suggest to get this album and the rest of the ones from Eerie. I haven't got the rest of them yet, but I am in the process of getting those. Eerie, the ones prior to this, you said there were some that was punk, is that correct? Was they all punk, metal, or what kind of vibe did they have?
Well, the first record I did right after Danzig, when I moved back to Jersey, I did an instrumental horror movie soundtrack kind of record. And it was like 8 songs, and I had a friend of mine go in, and he had some ideas. And it was basically all instrumental like you would hear in a horror movie, you know. And each song had a little story behind it. And I just imagined like a movie scene while I was recording the stuff. And then, you know, because I wasn't singing, I wasn't, you know, I couldn't come out with a record right away. I had to sort of like take baby steps and figure out what I wanted to do. So then I moved back to L.A. and I did a record all on my own called The Blood and the Body, and I had hardly any instruments, and I had to just make do with what I had. And that's more of a Samhain kind of gothy, spooky thing. And then I moved to Florida and did another record, and then I started playing drums again, played all the instruments, and had, you know, bass and guitar that by then, and better mics and stuff. And that was also like a, you know, like a real fucked up kind of, you know, I don't know. It's a weird record. It's called Bad Dream 13, and you know, so that stuff. Most of this early stuff was right out of the same vein as like Samhain and the spookier side of Danzig and stuff like that. And then I did this record called it's called Eerie Von Spider Cider, and it's called That's All There Is, and it was just straight up sort of punk rock, Dickies, Ramones kind of thing, which is, you know, my big influence after, you know, 50s rock and roll, and just had all these songs that I would just write and just said, well, you know, I can't use that right now, so I'll just put it down, put it aside. And I was like, I got like a bunch of these songs. Why don't I record some of this? Plus, I was in that kind of mood. It was a period where I was kind of pissed off, and I was like feeling like I was 18 again. So I was just like, I'm going to record these songs and put it out, and I don't care if anybody likes it or not. I'm just going to do it. And put that out, and then wound up doing the kind of country record, you know, just because that's where my head was at, you know, that's the way the songs were coming out. And I had a bunch of country songs that I never worked on, you know. You have whole files of, like, songs and lots of tapes and demos and stuff. So I did that. So the first 3 records are kind of spooky goth stuff, and then the punk rock record, and then the kind of country record, which is, you know, it's still dark. It still has, they actually started calling it dark country, you know, when I first put it out. And there's always blues in everything that I do, you know, because the blues is spooky, and, you know, that's what we did with Danzig, you know, the devil blues, that kind of shit. So, you know, so that's just it. The stuff comes out the way it comes out. I never sit down and go, I'm going to write a country record, or I'm going to write a blues record, or whatever. It just comes out the way it comes out, you know.
Back to this, the CD cover of That's All There Is. It's an awesome photo cover. How did that come about, picking that one for the cover art? That's
an actual crime scene photo from the 20s in France. If you look, the cop has that square hat that, like, he's a gendarme from France. Mm-hmm. And my uncle was a cop for many years. I don't know how he got a hold of that, but he had some crime scene photos. You're actually not supposed to have that, so he just gave it to me. And the day he gave it to me, I said, "Oh, I'm going to use this for a record cover one day," you know. And it was sort of, you know, fits with the frame of mind that I was in at the time. And here's this guy who was hanging from a tree, you know. Right. And I was just like, yeah, that'll work, you know.
And I know you're a blues fan and everything, but who's your influences? I know you said Elvis, but what about blues?
Oh, I like Muddy Waters, I like Howlin' Wolf, I like Elmore James, B.B. King, Albert King, and I like a lot of bands that have blues influences, like, the Doors. Allman Brothers started out as a electric blues band. I love Stevie Ray. Hendrix did a lot of great blues. But really, there's so much stuff, and a lot of the guys who played with Muddy Waters, like Little Walter and Pinetop Perkins, guys like that, were great on their own. But for straight blues, I'm probably biggest on Wolf and Muddy and Elmore James. But I mean, there's so much good stuff out there, and there's also a lot of crap. But I like a lot of it. Albert Collins is great. Freddie King. I love Howlin' Wolf's guitar player Hubert Sumlin. He was just awesome. He just died recently, like last year. But yeah, that's pretty much it. But like I said, I like the rock and roll stuff, which is guys like Fats Domino, Little Richard, and all those guys. And they're like blues players too. They just turned the tempo up a little bit, and turned it into rock and roll. To me, it's all blues is in everything. It's in country too. So, but those are some of the people that I like.
If you knew someone who was just getting ready to get into the music, what advice would you give them?
I'd tell them to do something else. I'd say pick another career. Just like actors always say, man, you don't want to be an actor. It's too tough, or whatever. But yeah, it's, if you're going to be a musician, it's like a calling. It's something you don't decide to do. It picks you. You don't pick it. And then you're looking for a lifetime of misery. That's all it is, because it's really hard to make money and to make it a career. And then you're always on the road, so it's hard to maintain a family, and all that stuff. So it's really not a job I would recommend to anybody. But if you have to do it, then I say do it with all your heart and work hard and just do what you have to do. Just like if you're a painter or a sculptor or something, you do it because you have to, and you'll do it till you die, whether you make money at it or not. So, like I said, I never tell my nieces and any of the young kids, I said, don't do what your uncle does, Go get a good job, a regular job. Life will be a lot easier. But if you have to do it, then just do it all out and just work hard and keep doing it. You have to put everything you got into it, or you're never going to make it. So it's not an easy life. People always go, oh, you got gold records, you're on a bus, you're flying around the world, all this. Yeah, but it's still hard. And you don't make a lot of money. Only a handful of people in the business go on to be successful money-wise and have big houses and all that stuff. Everybody else is still slugging it out in the trenches and in the vans and, playing clubs and, so it's not an easy gig,
While you guys are on tour promoting an album, people's got to think that, hey, they're writing songs as they're on tour probably. They've got songs that they're still working on to promote a next album to come out with, to do better than this one. So you're always working as a musician on that. Speaking of that, your next album, when do you think that may come out, Eerie?
Well, I've done the demos and stuff and been reworking songs and writing new songs, but I haven't actually started, formally recording. I have a thing at home that I can record the songs on and work on, to where I can get them to be really good demos. But I haven't been able to go into the studio, so I have no idea when a new record will come out. There will be another record, but I don't know when it'll come out.
Okay. Now, if someone wants to get a hold of you and buy one of your books or some of your art or anything, how can someone get a hold of you, Eerie?
Oh, you can always email me, I'm still on AOL. I never changed my account just because I didn't want to. It's EerieVon777 at AOL.com. You can find me on Facebook. I got a fan page and a personal page. I still have a MySpace page, although I don't go there very often. I mean, if you just Google Eerie Von, all this stuff will come up, and you can find me. I'm very accessible, and I usually, if you send me an email, you'll get a response. So if you just Google Eerie Vaughn, all kinds of shit will come up. So you can get in touch with me. My manager's name is Laura J., and she handles a lot of the paintings. She's on Facebook, and she handles the photos and all that stuff, you know. So it's pretty easy to get a hold of me if you really want to, you know.
Eerie, you've been a super guy. I really thank you for being on the show, taking time out, and this has been an awesome interview. But before I let you go, I wanted to see if you don't mind, do a promo for me, if you don't care a bit too.
No, that'd be fine. Hey, this is Eerie Vaughn. You're listening to BODS Mayhem Hour.
Awesome. Thank you, Eerie. And guys, trust me, if you want to get in touch with Eerie, look him up on Facebook. He'll, like he said, he'll answer you back very, very shortly. And I must say, this is one of the nicest persons I've talked to. And I will be getting in contact with Eerie this week about his book as well. So,
well, thanks. I enjoyed it. I'm glad to be on the show, and I wish you a lot of luck with it. And make sure you play my record, okay?
I definitely will. And I'd like to have you back on later this year and maybe do one or two acoustic songs if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, you never know. We could try to work that out. Just get in touch with me, and you just have to remind me, and because I forget stuff, because every day somebody's asking for something.
No problem. Thank you, Eerie, once again, and everybody. My special guest tonight was Eerie Vaughn. Eerie, thank you very much, my friend.
All right, man. You take care of yourself.
You too. Thanks.
I'll see you.
You're listening to BODS Mayhem Hour.
Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.